the other hand, the way of devotion is impossible if the personality of the divine cannot be taken as a real reality, and not a hypostasis of the illusion. There can be no love without a lover and beloved. If our personality is an illusion, and the personality to whom our adoration rises only a primary aspect of the illusion, and if we believe that, then love and adoration must at once be killed, or can only survive in the illogical passion of the heart, denying by its strong beats of life the clear and right truths of the reason. To love and to adore a shadow of our minds or a bright cosmic phenomena which vanishes from the eye of truth may be possible, but the way of salvation cannot be built upon a foundation of willful self deception. The bhakta indeed does not allow these doubts of the intellect to come in his way. He has the divinations of his heart, and these are to him sufficient. But the sadhaka of the integral yoga has to know the eternal and ultimate truth and not to persist to the end in the delight of a shadow. If the impersonal is the sole enduring truth, then a firm synthesis is impossible. He can at most take the divine personality as a symbol, a powerful and effective fiction, but he will have in the end to overpass it and to abandon devotion for the sole pursuit of the ultimate knowledge. He will have to empty being of all its symbols, values, contents in order to arrive at the featureless reality.
Yes.
Wrong.
Yeah. So, very interesting. Man has got a mind and has got a heart. The mind is usually for knowledge, and it works best when it is cool, calm, and emotionless. If there is emotion, it disturbs the way of thinking. So therefore, that is one. Okay. But the other one, the heart, has got warmth. It's not cold. It's got warmth, and it has got emotion. And there, it's a totally different thing. So Swami is saying that love is not possible without a lover and a loved. And love has to come in the triple formula: love, lover, loved. So if that is not there, then the yoga of devotion is not possible, very clearly. Okay, that's what he said. Even if you imagine, okay, that will be a false thing. And maybe you can think of it in that way: I'm loving the divine who doesn't exist. But it won't be a reality. You won't get liberation because there's no such thing if it is like that. But unfortunately, it is not like that. The divine has a personality as well as he is impersonal. Okay? Most of the Indian yogas, at least, they end up in the in the Brahman consciousness, the impersonal aspect of the divine. Okay, that's why there is this quarrel between the bhakta and the jnani. Okay, this is what he is explaining. On the other hand, the way of devotion is impossible if the personality of the divine cannot be taken as a real reality, and not a hypostasis of the illusion. Now, hypostasis, the meaning is in philosophy, it means an underlying essence of substance. Okay? It can also mean foundation or basis of substance. In theology, it means personal subsistence of each of the three aspects of the divine. Substance, essence, or personal subsistence of each of the three divisions of the Trinity. The Trinity in the Christian theology is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Okay, and they correspond to the Indian system of the transcendent, the cosmic, and the individual. Okay, so this is the hypostasis, means the basic foundation. If that is not there, then how can you get the liberation through bhakti? That's not possible. Then Swami is explaining very clearly, there can be no love without a lover and beloved. Okay, so then he's going to tell us much later on, okay, because all this is logic. But he will tell us later on that even if you have only the knowledge and aspect of the divine, and you merge into the divine, and you become the divine, even then love is possible. Okay? That he will tell you later on, not now. Now he is dealing with the divine personality. So he has to tell the logical part of it also. Okay, so there can be no love without a lover and beloved. If our personality, okay, that means our body, mind, life, the personality is an illusion, as the jnanis say. And when you go to the Brahman consciousness, you do see that there is no such thing as your, what you thought was your personality is only an illusion. The ego is an illusion, and also the body, mind, life is there, real in time, but ultimately unreal because it disappears. So if our personality is an illusion, and the personality now is the P cap, okay? So first personality, lowercase p, ours, okay? And later on, the personality with a with a P cap, obviously is meaning the divine person. Okay, so normally he uses the word personality in the sense of the nature, body, mind, life. But here he is putting a P cap, so obviously meaning God. God with a person attitude, form. Okay? To whom our adoration rises, only a primary aspect of the illusion. And if we believe that, then love and adoration must at once be killed. Because in knowledge, when you go to knowledge, you cannot entertain untruth. No falsehood can be entertained there. So that which is personality is not there, you have to remove it. Okay? It goes away by itself, by the knowledge. The knowledge will destroy, will simply use the word kill. Okay? Or can only survive in the illogical passion of the heart, denying by its strong beats of life the clear and dry truths of the reason. There you are. So the reason is cold, clear, dry, emotionless. And that's good because you have, when you have emotions, your judgment will never be absolutely correct. Okay, so it is usually you have to, all science also does not allow your emotions to come into your studies. Okay, it has to be calm, cool, and absolutely objective and detached. So the same applies to the yogic field also. Then love and adoration must have to kill. Okay, and but unfortunately, it's not like that. Okay, to love and adore a shadow of our minds or a bright cosmic phenomenon which vanishes from the eye of truth may be possible, but the way of salvation cannot be built upon a foundation of willful self-deception. You may believe that God in a personal form exists, but if that is not the truth, then you cannot get liberation. That's what he said. Okay. Now note also interestingly, to love and adore a shadow of our minds, a shadow of our minds, so imagination that God has got a form, or a bright cosmic phenomenon. Okay. In the world also, you may get an image of something which is not true. Okay. So, bright cosmic phenomenon which vanishes from the eye of truth. May be possible. Now look at that. Huh? May be possible. He's granting. But the way of salvation cannot be built upon a foundation of willful deception. This is the reason why all those people who go through to knowledge, okay, very clear. That's why Swami is justifying so clearly. Jiddu Krishnamurti, okay, then even our Sadguru, they all say that the personal form of the divine doesn't exist. It's your own imagination. Okay, that's what they say. It's very clear. There is no such thing as God with a form. There are only layers of states of consciousness. That's the impersonal aspect. And if you believe that, a willful self-deception, that's therefore they reject it. The path of Jnana Yoga does that. But on the contrary, the Bhakta, now we're talking about the Bhakta indeed does not allow these doubts of the intellect to come in his way. Okay? He has the divinations of the heart. The divination, the word divination has nothing to do with the divine. Okay? In its French origin, deviner, to guess. So you have a vague idea. It's a guesswork. There's a vague idea of what the heart is saying that there must be a personal divine. If I pray to him, he will be able to reply to me. That's what is the implication. And these are to him sufficient. He doesn't need knowledge. In fact, he repudiates the mind's statements and doubts. He repudiates. But the sadhaka now, so he is now talking of the sadhaka of the integral yoga. But the sadhaka of the integral yoga has to know the eternal and ultimate truth and not to persist in the end in the shadow, in the delight of a shadow. In other words, you must know him and identify yourself with the ultimate truth is the impersonal aspect, but also you must know the personal aspect also. Now, if the impersonal is the sole enduring truth, then a firm synthesis is impossible. Obviously, some synthesis cannot take place with a falsehood. He can, at most, take the divine personality as a symbol, a powerful and effective fiction. But he will have in the end to overpass it and to abandon devotion for the sole pursuit of the ultimate knowledge. The mind will win over the heart. If the divine doesn't have a personality, he will have to empty being of all its symbols, values, contents in order to arrive at the featureless reality. The featureless reality, the Brahman. And what is the condition of the Brahman? Absolutely calm, quiet, emotionless, not affected by anything. Cold, witness attitude. So this is the so Bhakti Yoga, he's saying, is impossible without a divine personality. So that's the first postulate. We can go back to our earlier, he said that the yoga of bhakti, the first postulate is that divine has a form. Otherwise, it's not possible. That is the, on SABCL page 553, he has told us the first postulate. Okay. Second postulate, we can have a relation with the divine. That's the second postulate. Okay, so now we go to the next para. We have said, however, are both, he will tell you that both personality and impersonality both exist. That's a integral yoga. So who will read next? Maybe Sunki, would you like to read?
Yes, I will read.
Go ahead. We have said.
We have said, however, that personality and impersonality, as our minds understand them, are only aspects of the divine, and both are contained in his being. They are one thing which we see from two opposite sides, and into which we enter by two gates. We have to see this more clearly in order to rid ourselves of any doubts with which the intellect may seek to afflict us as we follow the impulse of devotion and the intuition of love, or to pursue us into the joy of the divine union. They fall away indeed from that joy, but if we are too heavily weighted with a philosophical mind, they may follow us almost up to its threshold. It is well, therefore, to discharge ourselves of them as early as may be by perceiving the limits of the intellect, the rational philosophic mind, in its peculiar way of approaching the truth, and the limits even of the spiritual experience, which sets out from the approach through the intellect, to see that it need to see that in it need not be the whole integrality of the highest and widest spiritual experience. Spiritual intuition is always a more luminous guide than the discriminating reason, and spiritual intuition addresses itself to us not only through the reason, but through the rest of our being as well, through the heart and the life also. The integral knowledge will then be that which takes account of all and unifies their diverse truths. The intellect itself will be more deeply satisfied if it does not confine itself to its own data, but accepts the truth of the heart and the life also, and gives to them their absolute spiritual value.
So now he's discussing the personality and the impersonality, and it's a very interesting thing. And the best example in spiritual history is the relation between Ramakrishna and Totapudi. Okay, so we'll look at that story because it illustrates very clearly the two paths: the path of knowledge and the path of love. They're two different things altogether. But in the integral yoga, you have to combine them. So we will go through the sentences and we'll see, and then we'll come back to the story of Ramakrishna and Totapudi. If you remember, then it's okay. I may have spoken about it earlier, but now in this context, it is very, very valid. It is very, very pertinent. Okay? It is apposite. Achha, I'm reading each sentence. We have said, however, he's using the word however, because earlier he has said that if the divine doesn't have a personal form, Bhakti Yoga is impossible. So now he's using the word however. We have said, however, that personality and impersonality, as our minds understand them, are only aspects of the divine. They are not the ultimate truth. There is one truth which is the highest, that is the both, it combines both, the third level. The third level, the Purushottama, is impersonal as well as personal. But the Purusha in the spiritual planes of consciousness is usually the impersonal aspect of the divine. Are only aspects of the divine, not the divine himself. Both are contained in his being. That's the third level. They are one thing which we see from two opposite sides and into which we enter by two gates, the gate of the heart and the gate of the mind. Their methods are totally different. We have to see this more clearly in order to rid ourselves of any doubts with which the intellect may seek to afflict us as we follow the impulse of devotion and the intuition of love, or to pursue us into the joy of the divine union. We are trying to do that, but the mind will have its doubts. Actually, Swayambhava has already explained all these doubts in that chapter, the Godward emotions. He has discussed this thing, that is it possible to have these emotions, the motives of devotion, if the divine doesn't have a form, not possible. So he has discussed all this. And doubts can come in also in the mind. The biggest doubt is that how can the divine have a form which is limited? That's the biggest doubt that comes in. A form is a limitation and God is unlimited. How can he have a form? But this is only logic. You can go beyond logic and it becomes possible. Okay, so now I read the next sentence. They fall away. Who is the they? The doubts. Okay, the doubts, they fall away indeed from the joy. But if we are too heavily weighted with the philosophical mind, they may follow us almost up to its threshold, almost right up to the gate of the path of devotion. That's what he said, threshold. It is well, therefore, to discharge ourselves of them, get rid of the doubts, as early as may be by perceiving the limits of the intellect. We must convince ourselves and actually see that the intellect is very limited. You can go beyond the mind and there your knowledge will be 10 times superior to the intellectual knowledge. The rational philosophic mind, in its peculiar way of approaching the truth and the limits even of the spiritual experience, which sets out from the approach through the intellect to see that it need not be the whole integrality of the highest and widest spiritual experience. Now, spiritual intuition is always a more luminous guide than the discriminating reason. When Swami is saying spiritual intuition, he is referring very clearly to the plane of intuition in the spiritual level. It's not the intuition that comes down into the mind, nor is it the intuition that comes down into the animal in the form of instinct. Okay? That is intuition at the vital level, becomes instinct. But when he's using the word spiritual intuition, he's meaning the plane of the consciousness. Higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind. So that's very high up, just one notch below the overmind. So spiritual intuition is always a more luminous guide than the discriminating reason. Reason is below and spiritual intuition is above. A very good example of this also again is our mathematician Ramanujan. Okay, he used to get all these intuitions from what he used to call his goddess Saraswati. But the Western people who understood his genius, but who wanted proof. Hardy was his mentor in mathematics, and he took him to London, and there he told him to back up all his theorems by proof. But he used to insist, if you've seen that movie, The Man Who Knew Infinity, this question is discussed very much there. He's saying that I know these are facts, but they could not prove them. Later on, after he died, in modern times also, they have been able to show that all the formulas that he had, the equations that he had given are all right, they're true, they're not false. So intuition, saying very clearly, is a more luminous guide than the discriminating reason. The example of Ramanujan, the mathematician, is very clear in this context. Okay, so just one second. Ramanujan. Maybe I think Suki has not heard of Ramanujan. Have you? He was a fantastic mathematician. Okay, so
You mean the movie?
Pardon?
You mean the movie? Did you ask me if I watched the movie? The Ramanujan. Isn't there a movie about him, Rangada?
Yes, there was a movie. Yes, there is a movie on him.
There's a movie called The Man Who Knew Infinity.
Yeah, I didn't watch that yet. Yeah, I will. I'd like to.
You see that movie, you'll see the
Yes.
parallel between intuition and reason. Okay. So I continue now. So the spiritual intuition is always a more luminous guide than the discriminating reason. The spiritual intuition addresses itself to us not only through the reason, but through the rest of our being. There he is repeating what he said earlier. Spiritual intuition comes into the mind, but it also comes into the vital. Even it comes into the body. Okay. The body sometimes knows that it can't do something. Suppose there's a big channel to be crossed, okay, then you know that you can do it or you can't do it. That's a body intuition. You will see that very often when horses have to jump over a chasm, sometimes they hesitate, but very often they know exactly they will succeed. Okay, so simply saying very clearly, intuition comes. In fact, all comes down. Nah? Even the divine is coming down right down into the into the inconscient. So it is coming down, and when it comes down, it takes on different aspects. Okay, so spiritual intuition addresses itself to us not only through the reason, but through the rest of our being. One example of intuition coming through the reason is Einstein. Okay? He got the idea of the relativity because the intuition came into his mind. That's very clear. Because he is seeing realities which nobody would see with the reason. Okay, so even the other one, okay, even Newton's discovery of gravitation, okay, he suddenly saw an apple fall, and then the intuition came into his mind that there is a force pulling down. Nobody sees the force, so it was a good discovery from the Western point of view. Yes, it was a very big discovery, gravitation. So all these are intuitions coming into the mind. But intuition can go right into the vital in the form of instinct of animals, and it can go right into the body also. We have a gut feeling sometimes. Okay.
Rangada, here I would like to interrupt 1 second. In fact, in the supramental manifestation, the essays of Sri Aurobindo, he is talking of the purpose of physical education in ashram being a method to cultivate the body consciousness.
Yes, that's right. The body also becomes conscious that it can do something and can't do something. That clear discrimination also comes in. That's right. So, we go to the next one. So, spiritual nutrition addresses itself not only through the reason, but through the rest of our being as well, through the heart and life also. The integral knowledge will then be that which takes account of all and unifies their diverse truths. Integral knowledge. The other parts don't do that, but integral knowledge wants you to do that. The intellect itself will be more deeply satisfied if it does not confine itself to its own data, but accepts truths of the heart and the life also, and gives to them their absolute spiritual value. Now, Sri Aurobindo himself was probably one of the most intellectualized in recent times, okay? And that means his path would be through the knowledge aspect. But he also got inklings of the intuition of Godhead in many experiences, of course, not in jail, before the jail. In jail, he is actually seeing Krishna in form. Okay, that's different. But in Baroda also, if you remember, he's going in a carriage, okay, and suddenly there is an accident likely to take place. The carriage was driven by a horse. In those days, the motor cars had not yet come. Okay, so he was going in a carriage with a horse, and suddenly there was a possibility of an accident. Then what happened? The Godhead in him jumped out and guided the situation and controlled the situation. He's got a whole poem on that. Okay, I sat behind the dance of danger's hooves. Okay, that was the sonnet, the description. How the Godhead came out of him and controlled the whole situation. So how can he doubt after that? So, and in the jail, detailed guidance by the divine Sri Krishna in form. He's seeing Sri Krishna everywhere. So now they finished that para, and it's that story of Ramakrishna and Totapuri. If many of you know the story, very good. But otherwise, it's a very good illustration of the quarrel between the mind and the heart. Totapuri was a jnani, and he used to wear no clothes, okay, just a loin cloth and wooden sandals and a kamandalu. Kamandalu is a vessel with a handle for water. Okay, there are no possessions at all. He is a jnani. He is a path of knowledge, and he comes to Ramakrishna and teaches him about the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Okay, that is the path of knowledge. Because Ramakrishna was, if you remember, he is a priest in the temple, and he's seeing the image of the Divine Mother, and he's always talking to her, and he established the contact through the heart. Okay, so when Totapuri came, he taught, and by the way, you should know that Ramakrishna also was a synthetic, because he was taught, first of all, he experienced the truth of all religions. He practiced Christianity, he practiced Islam, he practiced the Radha Bhava, the devotion of Radha for Krishna. He also practiced the Hanuman Bhava, the devotion of Hanuman. That means the vehicle, okay, for Rama. And he had experienced all these in 6 months. Absolutely fantastic. Chandra is referred to it as a violent and rapid movement. Okay, he did all this. So he had to learn also Tantra, and he had to also learn Jnana. Okay, so for Jnana, Totapuri came to him. He was a Hindi speaking man, he was not Bengali. And he came and he taught him, told him, sit down and look at your own mind, okay, and try to concentrate. He took a piece of broken pottery and pressed it between his eyebrows and told him, concentrate there. Then he started concentrating and he said, now what are you seeing? He said, I am only seeing the form of the divine. I am seeing only my mother, divine mother I am seeing. So Totapuri gets angry and says, Go beyond, don't do that. But still, even after insisting, it doesn't work out. So finally he gets angry, Totapuri, and he takes a piece of broken pottery and presses it so hard on his middle of the eyebrows that little blood also comes out. Okay. Then he still says, I'm sorry, but I'm only seeing the Divine Mother. That's a personal aspect of the divine. Then Totapuri says, take the sword of knowledge in your hand and cut the image of the mother into two. Okay? Don't go beyond forms. Go beyond forms. Don't get stuck into forms. So Ramakrishna does that. He takes in his imagination, he takes the sword and cuts the image of the mother into two. Immediately, he jumps into the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi means featureless, absolutely featureless, the Brahman consciousness. And he starts lingering there. And it is so wonderful. No emotion, but absolutely a sense of vastness, a sense of peace, a sense of liberation. No limits, absolutely nothing, blank, total blank. He is absolutely enchanted with that. Okay? And doesn't want to come down. He wants to enjoy that all the time. But it lasted for, in one report it says 6 months. In another report it says 3 months. His consciousness is out of the body and he is not coming down into his body. So he had to be fed and kept alive. Food used to be pushed into his mouth and all his other bodily functions were naturally taking place. Okay? 3 months it continued. Then finally one day the Divine Mother tells him, you can't go on remaining in this higher consciousness, you have to come down to the physical world. Okay? So you have to come down because there will be many people who will come to you for instruction. You have to be a guru in the world. So you don't be there, you come down. So how can he do that? He can do that if there are limitations in the body, mind, life, and they pull him down like an anchor of a ship. Okay? If the ship is not anchored below to the sea level, to the sea base, then the ship will go on moving about. It will be free. So he then makes a small desire. Desires are that which will attract you downwards. No? So he makes a small desire. Ami jal khabo. Ami jal khabo means I will drink water. It's a desire, but it's a very mild and very harmless desire. And this used to keep him anchored in the physical world. This is how he did it. There's another story also of how he used to purposely do this. You know, you find the same thing in also prayers and meditations. Mother is saying, she's saying, why did you give me the knowledge of the higher if you have to again bring me down into this physical and into this suffering and pain and ignorance? She's complaining to the Lord. Okay, but there is a purpose in that because you have to be in the physical world. Sadhana's yoga is exactly that. You can't be there all the time in samadhi. Okay, you have to bring the divine down here. So then that is a function he had to do. And there is another interesting story about him also. He used to go to Sharada Muni. Sharada Muni was his wife, okay, and they had no relations at all, okay, and she used to live elsewhere also in the same building. So he goes to her and says, what are you cooking today? Okay, what is there for lunch? He asks questions like that. And she used to feel very surprised. Then why is he asking all these questions? He is supposed to be a divine personality and why is he worried about food? But the whole idea was that, you keep yourself anchored to the physical world. Otherwise your consciousness will shoot up. And there's a picture of Ramakrishna with his hands up, okay, and in a trance pose. Whenever a kirtan used to be sung or a bhajan used to be sung, his consciousness used to rise out of his body, okay, and go up. So he had to be anchored, kept down. So this is the first part of the story. So he realized the impersonal aspect of the divine. But this Totapuri had no knowledge of the personal aspect of the divine. And the second part of the story is that one day Totapuri goes into the river. He doesn't believe in the personal aspect of the divine. He believes only in the knowledge, which Surendra has mentioned here. Okay, so one day he gets a stomachache, a very severe stomachache, and it is so severe that he goes into the Ganges, the Hooghly River, okay, in Dakshineshwar, and he wants to drown himself. It is so bad. When I first read this thing, I said, how can a physical pain be so much that you want to kill yourself? But actually it did happen. Huh? There's a case in the ashram also, it was like that. There was a man who was so much physical pain that he relieved himself in this way, unfortunately. It was a suicide case. Okay. So then I said, oh, this is possible. So he's trying to drown himself. But what's happening? Wherever he's going, the water is only knee deep. He can't drown himself. And Ramakrishna is sitting on the bank of the river and enjoying this whole thing, because he knows that this is the work of the Divine Mother. So he tells Dadapuri, you see now, your knowledge is of no use. So pray to the Divine Mother and you will get relief. Okay. So then that's how he gets the knowledge of the personal aspect of the divine, and Ramakrishna gets the aspect of the knowledge of the impersonal aspect of the divine. So they are so different. The story is very illustrative, what Srimad is saying here in this passage. Okay. Oh, it's already 8:41. I'm sorry, we'll have to stop here. But it is very interesting when you back up these theoretical knowledge of the synthesis with practical examples of spiritual life in India. It becomes so interesting. Okay, so Sanki, next is the nature of the philosophical intellect.
Yes,
Thank
I'll
you,
make a
Rangada.
note.
Okay. Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rangada.
Thank you, Rangada. Thank you.
Have a happy Republic Day, Rangada.
Okay.